Hey Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome to Against the Storm. Now this is a little bit of an interesting game because it is a rogue-like city builder. A combo of things that I absolutely did not think would work, but I've pretty much spent about like 10 hours in the last day playing this game, and so I think it's about time I made a video on it. So the game being a roguelike has a meta progression element to it, and that's what this world map is. Basically what you're doing is you're like trying to rebuild this smoldering city, and so when you go into the smoldering city there's like a whole bunch of upgrades you can do, and every time you get an upgrade it'll give you some new kind of thing that you can use when you're actually doing the city building portion of the game, or like embarking on a quest to do city building. And you can also like trade with the Citadel for different resources. You can get spices and stone and stuff like that. Not only that, but we also have like these little towns here on the map, and each of these towns is a game that I played. I played a game. I think this one took me like an hour, this one took me like an hour and a half, and you have to kind of go through a whole bunch of missions and goals in these towns and a whole bunch of events. It's so much fun. And that's like this is like the meta progression stuff. Now, what I need for my progression right now is this ruined settlement. You see this extra 5 here. Wherever you place a city, you'll pick up some food. You can see here, if I were to place a city here, I would pick up 14 food down here. But if I throw a city down over here, I'll pick up 25 food plus 5 machinery. And I definitely want that 5 machinery. But there's like even more depth, because like, let's say I don't want to play in the Royal Woodlands, and so I would rather play, for example, on this marshland, because I know that the extra modifiers that you get from marshlands will make keeping my lizards happier easier. Yes, because there are multiple types of creatures in this game that you have to keep happy, and they all like different jobs, and they all like doing different things. Did I mention this game has like a decent amount of depth and really avoids the late game city builder problem? Because once you achieve all your goals, your town is done, you get a bunch of rewards, and you zoom out to a new challenge. And that's like the gameplay loop I love. It's like, this is exactly the same way I'd like to see someone solve the late game 4X problem, where like you get to the late game of a 4X game and you don't care anymore. Just like have the game end in the mid game in a roguelike, and boom, you start a new town. So I hope anyone who's like thinking of building a 4X roguelike, you need to look at this game, because this game does it amazingly. Even though it's a city builder, it executes on the idea of a genre that you wouldn't consider to be a roguelike, and manages to pull it off amazingly well. So we're going to go ahead and embark here, and we're going to embark on this green tile, which is the Royal Woodlands, and not on the marsh, because the Royal Woodlands gives you a plus 10% harvesting speed across the entire zone, which is quite nice. And it also tends to be quite a bit higher in food. Now, you could make an argument, right, that there's like plant fiber, there's clay, there's resin, there's leather. You could make the argument that I really should embark here on the marshlands, because this has access to things like stone and coal and copper ore. But I think it'd be more fun to just go on a more basic tile like this Royal Woodlands, because that's what you're going to start out on as a player. And we have 2 embark points. I think because we're a little bit further away from our settlement, normally we get 3, but I think the further you get away from your settlement, the harder it gets. You can see here, this is going to be hard difficulty, which means we get, I think, a little bit less embarkation points. And this is actually going to be quite a challenge for me, although I feel relatively ready for it. Now, I've got 2 embark points, so I could bring some extra humans with me. Humans are quite good at collecting food and doing food processing and stuff like that. Beavers are more wood-based, and lizards are your like forge masters and hunters. Beavers are your choppers, and humans are your farmers. So like each kind of clad of people have their own like role in your little kind of society. Or I could bring just extra food and stuff like that. I am a big fan of bringing extra mouths to feed, because it's just like extra people that can do jobs, which is quite helpful. It kind of gives you a nice little kickstart. Although there is something to be said to bringing these resources as well, because I could bring like a crate of wood and a crate of tubers here, or roots, which would be really useful. But I'm going to bring the humans because I think extra hands really helps in the early game. Now, there's going to be some special modifiers here. Now, normally you would get 3 positive modifiers and 3 negative modifiers, but because this is a hard map, we're going to get pretty bad modifiers. We're going to get 3 bad modifiers and only 2 good modifiers, and we already have a negative, kind of semi-negative modifier with a ruined settlement. There's going to be a lot of hostile events and ruined buildings, but we do get this. But yeah, with all that explained, the basics of the game ready, let's jump into a game. So here are the forest mysteries. We have rich branches, barren lands. All camp production is increased by 100%, but buildings using fertile soil have their yield decreased by 50%. Ooh, that's actually a negative, but that's only in drizzle. Interesting. That's really bad actually. Because fertile soil is what you use to farm in this game. So this means our farming yields are going to be quite lower. This is intensive mutations. Doubles bonus resource yields from trees. So this is quite good. When you harvest trees, there's a small percentage chance that you get like an extra resource. So this is what's going to mean over time we get a little bit of extra bonus resources. And then we have 4 negative modifiers here. The first one is the looming darkness. This is the basic -5 to resolve, which makes your people want to leave your town. Then we've got downpour. If we don't have our clothing needs fulfilled and we reach our first hostility milestone from the forest, like kind of awakening and coming back to like resist us, our units will move slower. Then during the second hostility phase, when the storm is on, because there's like 3 phases of the day, there's like the drizzle, the clearance, and then the storm. But basically what this means is you'll cut down trees faster, but you won't get anything from it, which is actually kind of okay, because like the storm usually doesn't last long. It's like the hardest part of the game, but it doesn't last very long. And then the strange lights is if we don't have any services fulfilled, there's a 10% chance all of your villagers could destroy whatever they're trying to make. So we kind of have a basic idea of what we're going to need to know. We definitely need to get our hands on clothing before the first hostility phase. And this is our town. We start out with 6 humans, 3 beavers, and 3 lizards. One of our lizards will be tending the fire, and lizards like doing jobs that involve heat, so he's quite a bit happier than normal. It's a good idea to get more of those. And you can see we kind of exist in this little clearing, and there's like these little patches of fog of war that we have to like open up, and you open those up by using a woodcutter's camp. Now I like to open up my basically every game here by picking up 2 woodcutting camps, and it just feels like a very natural thing to do, because this is like your exploration is your woodcutter camps. So we'll get both of those built up. I'll put 3 beavers on one and then like maybe 3 humans on another. It would also be good for me to get like a little bit of a food income, but we have to make some choices first and we have to do our blueprint picking. I know farms are going to be bad here this game, so that's something to consider, that farms are not going to be very good. So I may skip out on a small farm and a herb garden and go for some other source of food, maybe through trade or some other renewable resource. I know I'm going to want clothing in this game as well, so there's definitely something to be said for me picking the clothier here. So I think that's going to give me some long-term stability. I don't believe there's going to be a whole lot of copper on this map, so I'm not sold on the furnace being a good idea, aside from the fact that it could bake pies for me. The supplier is quite useful because that would actually synergize quite well with the clothier, because this can produce fabric out of fiber, or perhaps some of these things. The carpenter would give me a slightly more efficient way to produce planks, and it would also give me a way to turn plant fiber and wood into training gear, and then into turn training gears into luxury goods. So you have to kind of think about your supply lines. I'm kind of tempted to get a carpenter because getting good plank production is quite valuable. I think the baseline plank recipe is like 8 wood for 2 planks, so getting a 5 for 2 is like a big upgrade. It's way more efficient. But I do get a free reroll, so I think I'm going to take the supplier because this is just a little bit more generally useful. So I'll grab the supplier. Now we have camps. Ooh, that was something I didn't consider actually. On the map, I have root deposits, so I think that kind of pushes me towards whatever can gather roots. Oh, stonecutters camps can gather those. I think I'm just going to do a reroll then and hope for like a carpenter. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Okay, I got the carpenter back. So we picked up the carpenter, we picked up a few buildings, and now we can actually play the game, right? There's like a little bit of setup, but we're actually not quite done because there's even another little chunk of setup we have to do. Go ahead and completely road around our hearth. This is like the heart of your sort of town. If the fire goes out here, if you run out of wood or coal, game over. It's game over. You run out of food for too long, you can run a deficit of food for a little while, but if you run out for too long, that's straight to jail. It's like, you know, there's a lot of ways to die in this game, and there's only really one way to succeed. So I'm going to go ahead and assign 3 beavers to this woodcutter's camp, and I'm going to designate and tell them, hey, cut through that forest. I want to know what's in here, and I'll tell them to cut through here as well. maybe a little bit cleaner. And I'll put 3 humans on this one over here. Beavers are particularly happy to work in woodcutting camps. They have a 10% chance to produce twice as much. And also, every single tree on the map, if I could get it to click on it, has a 60% chance to give me an extra piece of wood and a 10% chance to give me resin, plant fiber, and then a 5% chance to get bird eggs. And there's also sometimes like resources hiding out underneath these trees. So clearing away the trees can be quite useful in getting access to new resources in of itself. But that's it. Once we lay down our basic plans, we kind of unpause the game and let it go. I'm going to go ahead and get started on a little bit of shelter for my people. It only costs wood, so it's not too expensive to get a little bit of housing up very early into the game. And I also like how, because like each house is like a corner, you can like rotate them around each other and make like a cool little block of housing. Go ahead and put a pair of lizards on here so we can start generating some clay. Clay is one of the basic resources you need, and it's time for us to now do the second part of the early game, which is where we pick our very first cornerstone. And this is going to be an important decision. This is like a buff. Every time you go through a year cycle in the game, you get a chance to pick a buff. So one of the buffs we could pick up is we get just 5 free plant fiber per minute, which could be really useful if we're going to be turning that into cloth and then turning the cloth into coats to solve the problem of the downpour later. This could be a long-term play, as could the grain delivery. 5 grain per minute isn't a huge amount, but it would contribute to giving us a way to generate a significant amount of food, especially on a map where we're going to have trouble making food, or we could take a boost to our brewing. I feel like I like the fiber line delivery here. Having a stable supply of fiber, even if it's not a huge supply, especially when we have a supplier that we can use to make fabric and then a clothier. So that kind of solves one of our needs. We have like a permanent supply of fabric here. And now we got to pick our orders. These are basically your missions for the game. Every time you achieve one of these things, you get a reward. So for example, have at least 6 humans for 30 seconds. I'll get access to the small farm. This could actually be pretty good. Plus I'll get a reputation point, or have 35 wood. Usually these early ones are super easy. So maybe if I wanted more beavers early, that could be helpful. I feel like getting access to the small farm is helpful because I am going to need a renewable source of food to keep my town from dying. Both of these are very, very easy because I've already done this one, and I'll also get a reputation point. I think I'm going to pick up the small farm because blueprints are quite valuable. Then we also have metal veins. I don't think there's a whole lot of metal on this map. Otherwise, we could pick up 3 packs. Yeah, I think we'll go for 3 packs. This is the makeshift post. We just have to build a little bit of early game trade goods, and in return, we'll be able to produce more trade goods from the makeshift post and different kinds of trade goods. So I think this kind of is a nice early game one to pick because I don't think there's a whole lot of metal on this map. And then my third order, I have to choose shelters. If I build 3 houses, and have 20 wood, I'll get 3 new population and a Queen's Grace. And if I solve any 2 Glade events, I would get 2 lizards and 20 stone. Stone is quite valuable because it allows you to upgrade your roads. But I think the easier one here is to go for the shelters and get those 3 extra pops and the extra reputation really early. There is kind of a downside to finishing these missions super early, in that as time goes by, the queen who you're doing this sort of town building for will become more impatient. And every time you solve one of these orders, her impatience will go down. That's something you have to consider, that like, to kind of balance things a little bit. So we opened up a glade, and there are 2 packs of mushrooms and 3 packs of berries in here. Now, I don't think we have a way to access those yet, but once we do these couple of resolve events, or these order events, we might be able to pick up a little bit of renown and maybe get a building that can harvest these. So the trapper's camp, the herbalist camp. The herbalist camp could gather berries and mushrooms, which I think means that is the one that we want to get. I think picking up the herbalist camp is the right move here, because that will give us a safe and stable supply of food here into the early game. So I'll just pop a herbalist camp down here. The nice thing is, generally, the trivial or weak buildings can be moved at will. So like now that I've opened this up, I can move this woodcutter camp. These are like your little kind of, they're more like flags than they are really buildings. They're kind of like, hey, work this area around here. Whereas the more permanent buildings, like say if I were to build this clothier, this can't be moved once it's like built and placed. So you have to think a little bit more about those kind of decisions. We are about to open up another glade, and this one had dewberry bush and mushroom. So we do have our food needs taken care of in the early game, and we also have an abandoned cache, which requires us to have simple tools. We have no tools right now, and we can choose to get an immediate bonus of some kind of like food, or maybe some stone, maybe whatever this is. We can choose between this. We pay 5 tools. We could pick up an immediate bonus, Or we can pick up a bit of reputation. Maybe if our missions are a little bit too difficult, we might need to pick up that reputation to try and finish the game a little bit sooner. I'm going to pick up this 3 free population nice and early here. That's going to be pretty helpful to me getting started. I don't have the tools for this, so I don't think I'm going to be able to pull that off. But I think I'm going to start working my way towards this glade over here. So I'll kind of like cut just through there like that and have this woodcutter camp get to work on that. I generally, what I like to do is in the early game, have like one woodcutter camp dedicated to, you know, opening up these easy glades. And then the other woodcutter camp is like making room for my town. Because that's something you have to do constantly is like, you just need room generally in like an area. So I'll probably actually task both of them over here to try and open this up a little bit quicker. We have another resolve point we can spend. We could get a lumber mill, which theoretically has an even better plank ratio. This one's only 3 for 2 planks. And it also gives me a way to build tools, as well as access to grain if I wanted to make flour. Now, I have a carpenter, so the lumber mill is tempting. Furnaces are quite good too, because you can turn flour into things. I don't have a way to make flour right now, and that's a little bit of a problem for me. This would be nice for a little bit more efficiency on these things. This would also give me a really good early game supply of food, like a way to turn food, like make food out of things, because I could combine mushrooms and berries to make mushroom soup, which is quite handy actually. And then later on I could produce these luxury items from said berries and mushrooms too when I have surpluses. So I think I'm going to take the granary, which is a building I usually avoid, but in order to build these more advanced buildings, you do need to build the more advanced resources like wood, cloth, and bricks. So in order to do that, I'll get myself a crude workstation, which is like the most basic production building in the game. It's very, very inefficient, but you can get things like planks and bricks very early. It's kind of like the necessary stepping stone building that you need to make in order to progress in the game. But yeah, other than that, it's like a pretty just like normal city builder. A little bit of waiting for, you know, your jobs to be taken out or finished. So there we go. We have a crude workstation now. I'll assign a lizard and a human to this one. And I'll set a limit of 5 planks. That's all I'm going to need for these basic buildings. And then 2 of these other things. Because I don't want this inefficient building to be cranking out like tons of these resources. I just want it to make like a little bit. So that's where limits are kind of important to balancing your economy and making sure you're not like wasting resources on inefficient processes. I find anyway, that's like a little tip that I've learned from playing the game. Now, I have an extra beaver, so I'm going to de-assign a human because beavers are just better than humans at woodcutting camps because the 10% chance to produce extra. Always, always, always worth considering. Oh, I forgot to assign humans here. I'll put 2 humans on this camp to get me berries and mushrooms, which will be used eventually with the granary to make a really, really consistent, not high quality, but consistent food supply. And oftentimes, you have to settle, okay? If you have to choose between high quality and consistent, sometimes you have to just choose consistent. And I'll go ahead and get started on that granary. I'm not going to be able to make very reliable food this game, so having something that multiplies 5 food into 10 food is going to be a big deal for me for just like a little bit of basic resources. You can already see my average food is declining, which is not good. Now we're officially into the clearance phase of the game, which is the second phase. This is when things are quite calm and nice. And we found actually a bunch of farmland here. There's 14 fertile soils. There's a big clay deposit. Now, these fertile soils are going to be really, really important in the long run. They're going to be inefficient for me, but they're actually so important that I'm going to like immediately get my work camps in here, trying to clear those out. Long term, getting access to these farming fields are going to be really, really important for a consistent and safe food supply for me, because wheat is really, really good. It's just like a great way to make food. Now, I'm loving the fact that I'm getting free plant fiber because it basically means that I have secured fabric for the rest of the game. It's just something I just don't have to worry about. And that's honestly, it's something that I usually have to worry about. So I'm very, very happy to get that problem solved for me. It actually might be a mistake to have both of these guys working on this when I need one of them to be making room for my town. So instead, what I'll do is I'll task this lumber mill over here just generally to, I'm going to de-emphasize working, so it'll kind of just like, you know, cut down trees that are nearby, and that's what it'll do. I also need to start thinking about maybe getting a trading post. These could be quite handy just to be able to like rebalance your economy, because when the trader comes by, you can like trade wood for maybe food or something like that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and slap down a trading post, because every time the trader comes is quite helpful. I think they usually come at the start of a year. The hostility of the forest is almost already up actually. So I think getting a clothier here is a little bit higher priority than I thought. I have nowhere like clean to put it, which is kind of upsetting. Maybe if I can get a little bit of room made over here, I'll get my clothier down. But I haven't even produced enough basic resources to get this granary built. But there's the trading post, and you can see here, Sahilda will be coming in a little while. So she'll probably arrive by the time of the start of the next year. And here is the downpour. So this is the hardest phase of the game. And what you can do to help is actually burn extra wood, because what's happening right now is all of my people are suffering like severe negative penalties to their happiness for the next 2 minutes. And so I could, in theory, burn 1 wood per second to keep this from being too bad. But usually the first storm isn't too bad to where you don't actually need to burn wood. I'm going to put 1 human on producing mushroom soup. And I'm just going to tell them to produce it indefinitely. I don't really mind how much they make for now. I mean, I'll probably set the limit to something like, I don't know, 50 mushroom soup. And then making this will just make my food, my kind of foraged food supply go a little bit further while I'm still trying to get access to this farming field over here. But yeah, you can see these little green bars over here, that's the resolve of my people. If this dips down too low, they may die or just leave my town. And people leaving your town really kind of annoys the queen. So you really don't want that to happen. But that's it. There you go. That's the storm over. And every time the start of a new year, usually you'll get access to new orders, and you'll get access to immigrants, and you'll get access to a new cornerstone. So we're going to kind of go through and do all of these things. So for cornerstones, I have hidden from the queen. Impatience doesn't grow when villagers leave or die. That can be helpful if you're having a rough time. Ritual of prosperity means that every new resource node that I discover in the forest will have extra charges, but 2 of my villagers will die. And then we have biscuit diet, which will give me a 50% chance to produce double yields when under the effect of biscuits. This is actually quite powerful if you have biscuits. I don't like things that kill my villagers. It does make your town like a little bit easier to manage and stuff like that. I feel like hidden from the queen, because I don't have access to biscuits right now, hidden from the queen is going to be the thing that probably helps me the most. But I tend not to lose people, but this is harder. We can go for a mixed bag of immigrants with a little bit of stone. I like getting stone because that extra movement speed is really, really powerful for upgrading your roads. And plus, an extra 2 beavers means an extra 2 people who produce extra wood. And I don't have a lot of use for lizards in this game at the moment. So I think I'm going to go for the human and beaver immigrant pack. Let's have a look at what orders we can pick up here. A meat diet. I haven't seen a whole lot of bugs. They want me to have 10 beavers and have the beaver resolve to be above 55. This would give me the lumber mill and pickled goods. I only have 6 beavers right now, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make the jerky this game, so I'll go ahead and take the beavers, plus a free blueprint is quite powerful if I could get that, because 55 resolve is quite easy to do. Infrastructure, so they want me to build paths or solve people's clothing needs. Clothing production is good, so simply by making clothing, I would get more clothing production, or I could just get a freebie win here and get a free resolve here by building paths. I think clothing the people is going to be better for me long run. The extra cloak production here is useful. Plus parts are really rare and hard to get. They're like one of your bottleneck resources because you need them to build your storages, which basically like acts as this building here, and every resource in your game has to be input into the main storage or into one of these sub-storage buildings. So that's like, this is really, really important for actually like, you know, because look how big the map is. We can extend out really, 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 really far here. There's an argument to be made here for me to get another herbalist camp, but that would use up 3 of my remaining 4 gears. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I'll have to rely on the food production from here and from the granary, as well as maybe getting a quick farm up here and just producing like basic veg. Ooh, I need to be careful where I place this because you can actually delete farmland. All right, I just learned that now. But yeah, let's go ahead and get ourselves a small farm here. This is probably the best position I can put it. We'll make some small farm fields. We'll probably just produce vegetables this first one to try and get it done ASAP. If we could just get some like quick and easy cheap vegetables as a source of food, I think that would be handy. Because we don't really have a way to process the wheat, the grain, into anything useful right now. Let's get 2 humans immediately working on this. And we're also going to go ahead and find this lumber mill here, take 2 humans off it and put 2 beavers on, just because beavers are better woodcutters. A little bit of micromanagement of your workforce is absolutely worth it. And we can already see that they've started growing a little bit of vegetables. That's going to help our food problem. Just that little smidge. Now it does. Now, unfortunately, we are going to have pretty bad yields on our farms, but hey, it'll little bit of passive food income is going to be a big deal for us in the long term. All right, so the trader has arrived, and we don't have much to sell. We do have a ton of wood. She has a few upgrades that we could pick up here. Ooh, biscuit recipes. Now that's useful. I'd love to get parts. Parts are hard to get, but she typically doesn't sell them. She usually just has this mixture of resources. So I could pick up some amber here. Amber is useful for a multitude of things. But amber is usually pretty expensive. Like a single point of amber requires like 33 wood, which is a common good. I think it's actually 33 of any common resource. Actually, no, wood is just one of the least valuable things in the game. Like we could trade some clay and get some amber. I would only really do that if I had a mission for it. So I think what I'm more likely to do is to trade like wood for food. And I think berries and mushrooms are the thing I would like to pick up. So I'm going to sell like 100 wood at least. And I have a decent surplus of clay. So I'll sell like 20 clay. I also have a fair surplus of plant fiber because I have a passive income of that. So that's something I should consider as a tradable resource. So I could pick up 40 berries. How much extra could I pick up? I could get just about 44 berries here. So I'll make that trade and I'll see if I can pick up some mushrooms. I wonder, how much do plant fibers trade for? So it's like roughly 3 mushrooms for 4 plant fibers. So I'm just going to sell off a whole lot of these and just see how many mushrooms I can get. I'd like to get 44 mushrooms if I could. That would match how many berries I bought. I'll just throw in a little bit of extra clay here to sweeten that deal. And boom, right, nice, we got it. So we traded off some of our renewable and less renewable resources to get access to a little bit of a food buffer because we're struggling with food a little bit, right? We're not quite making as much mushroom soup as we would hope. Like, it takes a minute and a half to make 10 mushroom soup. It's quite a while, but now we have a nice supply of mushrooms and berries to keep producing those. And this woodcutter camp over here has ended up making enough room for my clothier that I wanted to put down. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the clothier down right there. I like to build my towns in kind of like semi-organized grids. Just feels neat and nice to me. I do need more shelters too. Nice little housing block over there. I'll need 2 more shelters. Oh, I misplaced that one. It's got to be neat. It's got to be, I don't know. If a game gives me the ability to build things in like little neat squares, I'm going to do it. That's just the kind of person that I am. Oh, we get to pick a cornerstone. Right. Yeah, I'm going to take Hidden from the Queen. I think that's honestly my best choice. It's like the best of a bad bunch. But that's the growing season over, so all these crops will now mature, and then they can be harvested. Again, it's not a huge amount of food, but they do have a 10% chance to produce twice as much, and then there's another 10% harvesting speed, so it is kind of nice. Oh, that's weird. Does this just have no effect? Buildings using fertile soil have their effect. Wait, am I just getting the full yield anyway? Is this just actually purely positive? Maybe I'm crazy. But Hidden from the Queen is quite useful here because we are not going to have any problems with queens and patience. Let's put a human onto this place. We don't need manuscripts or luxury goods right now. So I'll deactivate both of those recipes, and we're mostly just concerned with making clothing. And I think, having about 30 clothing in stock is a good amount. That should cover all of our needs because we are about to upgrade our hostility, which means this downpour problem is going to have a big impact. Units moving 40% slower. I don't think I need to tell you how bad that is. And we have 10 roads to play with. And I usually like to center my roads around my my hometown, my home base here. Like, this is a very small section of extra speed, but it is extra speed, right? So everyone coming in to this place will move 15% faster compared to these simple paths. You could do micromanaging stuff where you like take these guys off of vegetable production during the storm, but I just like to leave them on it. It's like, it's just simpler to play the game this way, I find. I find games that require overly too much micromanagement just aren't as much fun when it comes to city builder type things. So I need to start thinking about what the next one of these missions I'm going to fulfill is. I feel like it would be good to fulfill this 3 packs over here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab myself a makeshift post. And a makeshift post can make these basic resource goods. So I'm going to set that to 4, a limit of 4 each, which is a reasonable amount of these. And they can also be sold off. I definitely want my carpenter too. That'll probably be my next major production building that I get online. So we're in the storm. This time I am going to burn wood. When we get about halfway through this storm, just to keep people's resolve a little bit stronger. Lizards especially have a really hard time during the storm because they prefer warmer conditions. They're a little bit easier to keep happy, but they definitely have a really rough time during the storm. So burning a little bit of extra wood can really help them out. And that's it. The storm is over. It wasn't too bad. People didn't get too upset. Nobody's homeless, so they can't like die or anything. And we get another year and we can pick new perks. Wouldn't mind an extra visit. Ooh, an extra part, an extra stone too. I think it's got to be. I think it's got to be. I go for the beaver choice here, because I am going to be building a workshop that gets extra yields from beavers working in it, and also humans are good for working farms. So I think picking up these is great. We have a couple of new missions we can pick. Ancient tablets that can be found in dangerous glades, or I can open 3 caches of any size found in the forest. This would allow my workers assigned to Glade events to carry more items. It would give me 4 beavers and extra parts. I think this lost knowledge is actually a little bit harder, because like here's a cache, a small abandoned cache over here, then a small abandoned cache over here. So if I can just get access to tools, I think I can pull that one off pretty easily. Now here's an interesting cornerstone. I can gain 1 villager every time I open a glade. This can actually be like a really, really powerful snowball effect. It does mean your food upkeep is like massive, because you need like a huge amount of people. But 5 clay per minute, like I'm not having trouble with clay whatsoever. I have like a ton of clay. I have a ton of bricks. So I don't think I need clay. I don't think if I had herbalists that I was making, if I was farming herbs and roots and I was making biscuits, I would go for spices. But I feel like Lost in the Woods, getting extra free villagers is really, really powerful. Considering I haven't opened very many glades at all. And we're still in like the very, very early game here. So yeah, I'm going to go for caches because these are just, it's a little bit easier to do this. Rations for the Citadel. So I can do packs of provisions and packs of crops. This would give me extra grain production and gain additional grain from every yield. Oh, that would be huge actually. Especially because I'm struggling. I'm going to struggle with farming in this particular map. Or I could go towards having pack of provisions and making my lizards happy. There's not a whole lot of meat on this map, so I'm going to go for the farming buff and see if I can do this maybe a little bit later. Not right now. Yeah, so we got our immigrants, we got our cornerstone, we got everything we need. Let's assign a couple of humans to this task. I have 2 humans working on mushroom soup now. I'm still going to produce vegetables over here, and I'm also going to get to work on now unlocking that second farming plot and also cutting through this new glade. Because now every time I cut through to a glade, it's an extra pop who can, you know, either work as a forager or work as a carrier or just hauling things around, a builder, whatever it is that I need. All right, let's get our carpenter placed over here. We should have the resources to build it, no problem. And we have a couple of beavers we could assign to it as well. Trying to like identify where my longest supply lines are going to be. And I think if I'm going to build out in this direction more, it might be a good idea to put a hearth and a storage over here. So they have like an extra little town center, because this is kind of central. There's a couple of farms here. We have managed to successfully clothe our people. This extra 5 parts is huge for us, by the way. It opens up so many more options. And plus, our Queen's Impatient has gone down and we can pick a new blueprint. We have access to the smokehouse. This would give me access to incense as well as jerky. Incense is quite useful. The brewery would allow me to produce ale, as well as another way to make mushroom soup and potentially even wine. I'm not sure what wine is used for. It's mostly used for luxuries, it looks like. I could also pick up the library and get a free luxury building. And it would also give me a use for incense, as well as access to religion and education if I can make manuscripts and incense. So I think the library is going to like take care of a luxury need here, which is really only nice for my beavers. It would make my beavers quite a bit happier. But I mean, I'm all about making beavers happier, especially because if your people are extra happy, you will actually get passive resolve over time, which is like getting your chance to win the game. So I'm going to pick up the library. It offers a lot of services here. Religion and education can be used. Like lizards can use religion, as can humans. So for me, personally, that is the choice here. We're going to pick up the library. It's quite expensive in terms of planks and bricks, but that's okay. Not a big deal. We'll make sure we prioritize the carpenter. And once we have the carpenter online, we're going to deactivate the wood recipe in the crude workstation, because this is just inefficient compared to what we can do now. Let's go ahead and put a pair of beavers to work in this town. We want to use cloth and wood to make training gear. And then we want to use training gear to make luxury goods, and luxury goods we can sell. I'll set a limit of 30 planks, which feels pretty reasonable to me. I don't think you would ever really need more than 30 planks at any one time. So these guys will just get to work at chipping away at that job now. Oh, the stonecutters camp has run out of resources to pick up. I guess in the meantime, I'll get them to work on these tubers over here. The nice thing about the stonecutters camp is it can also be used as a sort of a limited food supply, right? They can pick up a little bit of roots and stuff like that until I open up another glade. But yeah, but the fact that there's going to be 2 farms over here, I'm definitely going to throw down at least a storage here. That means anyone who's working over in this area can drop off their resources here, which will make my farm slightly more efficient. It means they don't have to struggle quite as much because like right now this farm is running all these resources all the way down here to this town center, which is just really, really, really far. The trader is here, so we can throw away a few resources on making friends. Now we only need a few of these crops and provisions to fulfill this mission, so we could theoretically sell off 3 of each, no problem, and pick up either a little bit of amber. Like here's an interesting one. Pocket knives gives you 4 plant fiber for every 10 vegetables you produce. I do have an infinite supply of plant fiber right now, so I don't need that. Lumber mill wouldn't be bad. Fuel burns 25% faster. Plus 1 to grain production could be good, but I don't have any amber. So I think I'm just trying to like rebalance my economy again. And it looks like mostly I'm good on things. Maybe some consumable items would be nice. No, actually look, I'm a little bit low on food again. So I'm gonna go ahead and buy myself a whole pack of mushrooms here. I'm gonna buy every single mushroom she's selling, and I'll drop off a little bit of these luxury goods and see like 3 packs of crops and 3 packs of provisions almost like neutralize this price. 101 wood on top of the deal as well will pick me up all the mushrooms I need, and those mushrooms will do me for quite a while. We opened another glade. We found a stormbird nest and some more roots. Not amazing, but we did find a small encampment, which gives me an opportunity to get access to some amber or potentially more workers. More workers are really useful in exchange for like a little bit of food. This seems like a free expansion to my people. So let's go ahead and quickly just get that fulfilled. An extra 1 of each pop is useful. Diversity is the strength. And don't forget, we also got a free pop for opening up that Glade as well. I'll build like a whole slew of new housing. These houses are quite cheap. Probably not the best place to put them. It's like an obnoxious place for me empire-wise, but it'll be fine there. So the important thing is now I have a really good supply of luxury goods. So when the next round of orders comes, if a mission requires luxury goods, I'm absolutely going to be picking it because that seems like a net positive. And so we have a whole bunch of new workers. We're in the clearance, so we're not quite ready for a new farm, but we will be soon. Let's get a little bit more of this land chopped away. I think I'm going to start cutting into these glades over here. So I'll pop my woodcutter camp over here and direct chopping. You can like, they'll just chop generally in their area, but you can also direct them to where they need to go. All right, so now we're going to start suffering a little bit of an issue here because these guys are taking the minus 40% move speed debuff from the downpour. And I'm also going to need to burn wood during this storm to keep my lizards from getting too upset. I'll probably need a second worker on the clothier to keep my clothing production going at a rate that I would like. And it's also about time that I got my supplier who will be able to actually produce more cloth for me. But yeah, I think I'm just not producing enough cloth. So let's go ahead and up our cloth production to 6 and then see if we can get a supplier in the next little while. I really need to get this farm down so I can assign villagers to it so they can start sowing the field. So I'm going to put this to maximum priority. So whatever the next piece of wood that's produced is going to go straight to this. I think it's super important that I get that done. We're producing a decent amount of mushroom soup. I think that's keeping our food production going nicely. But I don't think we're really producing enough. That's why I need this second farm to just try and like take the edge off the food need. We do get to pick a cornerstone and a new set of immigrants though. Now that this is over, Ritual of Prosperity is kind of interesting. Now that I have the thing that prevents impatience increase from villagers dying, and I get a free villager every time I open a thing, this would make every time I open a glade, the resources would just go further. 1% chance of dying every 60 seconds. This combos pretty well, but that could also cause a death spiral if the wrong guys die. I'm not a big fan of people dying. Like, I like it when my people are alive. So I think I'm just going to take rooty ground. Harvesting and planting are going to be slower, which kind of sucks, but I will get extra wood production. The other ones just have too much people dying that I don't like. I would like to get my 3rd woodcutter now, so I think I'm going to take a pack of beavers. Although I have a spare beaver and there are 2 beavers here, and this is a slightly more diverse group. This brings a lot of food with it. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pick up these guys, and we'll go ahead and throw down that extra woodcutter camp. Let's pick our next orders. Okay, fulfill your villagers' needs for luxury 100 times. I've done that a few times, or at least I will once I have the library, or have farm fields and make packs of crops. This would give me extra humans and grain production. I think I'll go for the grain production and the parts. I will be able to fulfill this pretty easily once I have my second farm up and I dedicate it to crop production. 20 beavers for 30 seconds. That seems like a little bit too much for me. This is way more achievable. I can definitely get luxury goods. Remember, I was talking about that earlier. 20 beavers is almost impossible here, but packs of trade goods, it's going to be a little bit harder, but doable. I'm mostly waiting for this 3 packs. Once I have that, I should be able to do this mission next, honestly. It should be the easiest one for me to do. But I do now have 10 beavers, which means I now have access to the lumber mill. That opens up some new opportunities for me. Let's go ahead and deliver this to bring down the queen's impatience and get myself another blueprint as well. Herb garden is an interesting choice. I actually don't know what to pick here because I don't have any resources I can't harvest is the thing. And I've been presented with 3 buildings that give me access to new resources. It's a hard choice for sure. I think I'll just let that choice hang there for a while. My herbalist camp has completely exhausted all the resources over here. Let's go ahead and pop it in to this section here. Now the lumber mill is really nice because it's actually even more efficient than the carpenter for producing planks, which means this would probably go down to a single beaver, just like slowly producing luxury goods for me. And it's almost certainly what I'm going to do actually. And instead, I'll probably get to work on a lumber mill. My town's a little bit cramped right now. I need to make room. It's like a big problem I'm running into is I just don't have enough room. So I'm going to get some guys working behind my town hall because I just don't have enough room. It's like I can't place any buildings. I'll just tell them to like clear out a whole area over here. There's the farm we were looking for, so we placed 2 humans immediately on that. I think this one is going to be dedicated to grain production. And the reason we want to produce grain is because you can turn grain in the granary into packs of crops. And these packs of crops will help me fulfill the pack of crops mission. So that's perfect. Probably also means I can use grain to also make some extra soup with some vegetables. So that could be a way to also extend my food supply. But for now, grain is going to be turned into crops. I'll probably get a 3rd human on this thing now. Yeah, the grain planting started late this season, which means we won't get a full harvest of grain, but we will get a small harvest of grain, which is quite nice. My stonecutter's camp is finito. Oh, there's some roots here in the back. Lovely. May as well keep these guys working. Ooh, because I got a delivery of pickled goods. My lizards are actually super happy, which is giving me a little bit of reputation per minute. I could burn extra wood to make them even happier. I don't know. Is that like a... Oh, I'm already burning extra wood. Oh. I guess I'm just producing enough wood to where I can just sustain that now. Oh, because I got the +1 wood production perk. Yeah. Oh, I'm able to just sustain +1 wood sacrifice right now. Well, that feels kind of OP. It's harvest season. Yeah, not a lot of grain, but we did get some good vegetables at least. It looks like this rich barren lands thing here actually has no negative. I don't know why this downside is here. Maybe it was like a thing that just is leftover, because I guess I understand it better. There just is no downside. But we're into hostility 2 now. So rotting wood means that we'll chop down trees faster during the storm, but they have less, but we get nothing from it. So for a small period of our year, we'll get nothing from cutting down trees. I mean, if I have the wood surplus, there's basically no reason not to be sacrificing wood. I just need to keep an eye on it. The big thing I really need to do is to get this carpenter up so I can actually start producing planks efficiently and also tools. Plus, also importantly, this is where I'm going to be producing flour. Ooh, we found a glade over here. Access to more stone. I think I was running a little bit low. No, I have tons of stone. Never mind. I have all the stone I'll ever need from harvesting. Now you can see during this storm, my lizards are starting to have a real problem. With the also hostility that I'm dealing with, my lizards are having a real problem with the storm. They're the hardest to keep happy out of all of the guys. But we did manage to pull off the 3 packs here. So now we can start producing packs of trade goods. And we get 1 Queen's Grace, which is going to like erase a little bit of this impatience, buy me a little bit of time. And I do need those trade goods in order to get these tools. And if I could get these tools, actually, it would be huge for me. Lizard resolve is low. Let's burn more wood. Just to keep that from getting too low. We'll burn a ton of wood. Let's go ahead and pick new perks. I feel like having access to an herb garden might not be terrible. I may just pick up the trapper's camp because it opens up the option of insects and meat, which I may find. So it just gives me potential things here. I don't have a way to make ale as much as I would love to. So while I want the tavern, I think I'm going to go with the lizard house to try and like specifically target making my lizards just that little bit happier. So I'll start building some lizard houses now. Like the basic shelter is only 5 wood, whereas the specific houses cost improved tier 2 resources. So a little bit more expensive, but I think that expense is worth it. A new year, new cornerstones, and immigrants. Ooh, I could pick up 5 humans. Now, humans, there's a ton of farmland over here, for example, so maybe extra humans wouldn't be bad. The stone is good. I think the stone is really powerful. At this point, my town is really big. I have a decent amount of stone saved up. I've got 20 in the bank, so I could like improve a little bit of roads. Gain 5 jerky for every 10 mushroom soup produced. Oh, that's huge. Jerky is a tier 2 food. And specifically, jerky makes lizards and humans way happier. And I'm having trouble keeping my lizards happy, so that extra 5 jerky could be a big deal. The vineyard town, gain 1 plus to beaver resolve. Oh, for every 50 wine produced. A shady but lucrative deal. Gain 10 amber every time a villager dies. I haven't been losing villagers. I do think like a killing your own villager economy is possible, but I feel like this synergizes with the plan that I've made for the early game. 10 mush soup. So basically every time I produce mushroom soup now, I get just free other food, which is huge for me. Because not only does it mean I have a more efficient economy in terms of food production, it means I don't have to worry about like a tier 2 luxury food. And I was having trouble getting access to jerky in general. It is time to pick our final 2 orders. Cut through to discover 5 new glades, which would give me 5 pottery per minute. This is going to be an easy enough mission to do, plus extra amber and parts. This shouldn't be too hard to do at all, this like year or maybe next. Or we could trade goods to the Citadel for a temporary boost. I think this extra pottery trade route is like amazing. And cutting through to glades is a relatively trivial task. Now, I've cleared out a bunch of space behind my main encampment here, which is exactly what I was trying to do. So I'm super happy about that. Start cutting through to new glades now that we have that mission. And the trader is here too. Oh, baby. Ooh, she has tools here. I need tools. I could use a few. I'm going to have trouble producing them. Grain production, not a whole lot of stuff I care too much about aside from the tools. Maybe the pottery too, because I can produce trade goods with that. They're quite expensive. Yeah, I'll see if I can pick up all 50 pottery here. Oh wow, I have a ton of copper ore somehow. I'm not really sure how I got this, but this is actually going to be super helpful. I'll be able to produce my own tools with that. So there's the 50 pottery picked up in exchange for resources. Now that pottery is going to be helpful because I can produce trade goods with it in the makeshift post. I can use pottery to make pack of trade goods, which will keep these 2 guys busy for quite a while. Because I need those trade goods in order to fulfill the mission, trade, and luxury. So this game is almost like a puzzle game in a lot of respects. You have to kind of like understand how things work and chain them all together. Cut through the forest to discover 4 dangerous glades. I haven't even shown you dangerous glades yet. I think I'm going to take the luxury goods. This one's relatively easy for me to fulfill. I already have a workshop basically on continuous production of luxury goods now. So he'll slowly produce those for me. I'm going to buy these 5 simple tools. I have to give up 5 packs of crops for them, but I absolutely think this is worth it because now I can come over here and clear out like this small abandoned camp. Maybe pick up a bunch of ale, maybe pick up a bunch of parts. The question is, how badly do I want these parts and how badly do I want the Queen's Grace? I think specifically because parts are basically impossible to get from any other means, I'll pick up the parts. And it also means I can be way more generous with where I place my storages and my makeshift hearts. Yeah, look, we have jerky available. It's making these guys happier. Everything is going really, really well in my town. I'll put a lizard to work in the library and he'll provide luxury goods, luxury needs to my my beavers here. It'll keep those beavers quite a bit happier. Oh, we found a new clearing. So there's some flax fields here, Stormbird's Nest, and Fallen Human Explorers. Oh, this is a negative event. This is going to make my humans unhappy unless I explore and figure out what happened here. So I can loot the bodies and gain clothing and jerky, or I can send it to the Citadel. I'm going to send this one to the Citadel. This doesn't, like, I can get both of these relatively easily, so I'll take those goods, plus a little bit of reputation will get me a step closer to winning. This has been harder than the other missions that I've done. I will give it that. Like, when it said this would be hard, it wasn't entirely incorrect. I finally have my supplier online now after so long. So I can finally come in here and deactivate this as my main method of getting cloth. Now, granted, I have infinite cloth, so making it inefficiently was not a big deal. But at long last, I can at least produce it just a little bit more efficiently in here. And I also have a way to make infinite pottery, which is quite helpful. So now the only thing that I can't produce efficiently is clay. Ooh, we found a glade with abandoned buildings. This is a really big deal, actually, because if we restore these, we could have access to buildings that we maybe wouldn't normally. We already have a granary, so I'd probably salvage that one. It costs me planks and stuff, and I'll get Actually quite useful things. The brickyard, on the other hand, this can produce bricks, pottery, and crystallized dew. This is definitely a building I don't have access to, so we will 100% be restoring this and rebuilding it. The weaver also, I don't normally have access to. Ooh, salvaging it though. Salvaging isn't that good. I'm gonna rebuild the weaver too. Plus, there's a little bit of stone path over here, so if I were to build like a single, maybe a hearth and a storage over there to take care of my people's needs. Oh, I have an order that's ready to complete. We've done trade in luxury. So we're going to get 40 simple tools and 80 amber. This is huge, especially if a trader comes soon. The simple tools are going to be really, really helpful because it's going to help me finish this open caches over here. So I'll be able to very, very easily take care of these. Now, the question is, do I still want to keep these goods? I think I'm going to go ahead and send these to the Citadel. I need to start thinking about finishing up this mission. And usually grabbing these caches is a great way to get that little bit of extra rep boost. Oh man, but parts are so good. Ooh, yeah, this is a hard choice. I think I'll keep the parts. Parts make a big difference. Got another one here. Biscuits and jerky. These are all things I can get relatively easily. I'm doing a lot of investigation and restoration. We've got a weaver over here. Man, this is exciting. Access to new buildings is always exciting. Oh, there's a little bit of homelessness in my town. That is really bad. How fast can I get some shelters up? That is a good question. One that I am a little bit concerned about because I just tasked a bunch of my people to random old jobs. Right, let's go ahead and burn 3 fuel per second. We have over 500 fuel in the tank. So we should be well able to sustain this. That's like, what, 180, 360 fuel over the whole storm. That'll keep people from being depressed and unhappy. I think that'll be the way that we keep people alive. I could get a bakery. This would give me access to biscuits with flour. I have the resources to make pies, and I have the resources to make biscuits. Biscuits are quite powerful. Smokehouse. I already have access to jerky. The only thing I would really want from here is the incense. I do have copper that I could smelt to copper bars, which would allow me to produce tools, but I have all the tools that I need from that mission. So it's really like, do I want this extra food? This tier 2 food to make people happier? Or do I want the incense to take care of people's needs? And I think taking care of people's needs is maybe a little bit more important to me. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the smokehouse. Yes, time to open a cache. Awesome. 4 beavers will join the settlement. That's brilliant. I could definitely use more sort of unemployed people, quote unquote, who can like do odd jobs around. Yeah, I need to do services here. People are getting distracted in the storm. I mean, like, people being distracted in the storm isn't the worst thing ever. It does just mean that my economy is a little bit less efficient here. Let's grab a makeshift hearth over here with these new resources. And we'll also grab ourselves a storage. I wonder, can you overwrite old paths? No, you can't. Okay, so that's good to know. New immigrant time. I like the balanced group of immigrants best. Reinforced axes so I can chop down trees faster. Gain 2 barrels for every 5 planks produced. Or, sloppy wood cutting. I feel like reinforced axes is okay here. Free barrels. I'm not sure what I could use barrels for. Maybe I don't really have a use for free barrels. It would mean I wouldn't need to make pottery for certain things, but I don't have those things unlocked. So I personally feel like reinforced axes is better. Just cut down trees faster, guys. That'll help counteract the fact that I have that deep root modifier that's making things a little bit harder to cut. So if I get some spark dew, I have access to crystallized dew now. And I also have a cheaper brick recipe. And I think the cheaper brick recipe means that I'm fully no longer dependent upon this crude workstation. So I can go ahead and delete it and set these guys to instead be in the brickyard. So I'll get them to work away. I'm just having a constant nice supply of bricks. Because you need bricks specifically for those improved houses. Yeah, I think I'll pick up the bakery now. I could re-roll. Let's re-roll. Let's see what we can get. Beaver House Tavern. Maybe I can buy ale. Let's take the tavern. Open up some trade routes here. What do you have? So I could get meat or coal from these guys, or I could get ale from these guys in exchange for some sort of resource. The question is, what do I have in excess? I mean, I have a ton of amber. I may as well just sell amber here at this point. So now that I have a supply of ale, I can just happily place down this tavern with absolutely no worries, no regrets. So make sure we put a lizard on this makeshift hearth, and he'll keep it fueled, as well as lizards are generally happier working there. So that's a resolve boost. We've managed to pull off agriculture. We have done our packs of crops. So we'll get 3 new humans, as well as better grain production and some extra parts. So we're on the home stretch now. Now we just need provisions. We need to open some glades and make some packs of luxury goods. But I also think we'll probably get some of the reputation just from doing these things. I'm going to go ahead and assign people. I think it's about time we opened up a dangerous glade. So I think that's what I'm going to work on. Get a couple of dangerous glades going. We'll open up this glade over here. Another glade over here. Also, I think I can now probably more easily justify just throwing down like storages in random places to make my workers slightly more efficient. We're definitely on the home stretch now, though. I don't think I need much. I mean, I may as well pick up the brewery, right? I can make wine. I can make ale. Well, let's just pick up a house for somebody. Yeah, we'll pick up the human house. Speaking of houses, actually, we do have a little bit of homelessness. I have one lizard house built, so I'll need quite a few more. I think those extra 5 lizard houses should do the job and house not only all of my lizards, but actually give them the lizard housing buff, which will mean they're a little bit less unhappy. Oh, I have another farm over here that I didn't even notice. Oh, that's a bit of a mistake on my part. Let's go ahead and make sure we get that up and running. Yeah, look at that whole host of lizard housing. And now everyone is delighted. Wait, why aren't they affected yet? Have they not all moved into their new houses yet? Yeah, I think they're just still moving in. So they'll be happier in their lizard houses. Let's actually call a trader. I'm so close to winning that I can deal with the unhappiness. So I'll call the trader over. Because I forgot to meet her when she was here. And I can maybe pick up some perks here. 10% movement speed. Oh, easy. 20 extra pottery for every discovered glade. Extra perks. Amazing. You can get like some really, really good perks in the late game. It's super, super great. I don't think I really produced much ale. Although I could. I'm so close to winning that it's not a big deal. We'll just leave that there for now. Ooh, we found a new glade. Perfect. Which means the Master of Exploration is completed. Boom. Now I think I just need to make packs of provisions in the granary here, which I have 3 dudes working on. And bing bang bong. Bish bash bosh. Oh, they need to be delivered. Right. Force delivery. Click. We force the delivery. And boom. That's it. We won the mission. We get some orders from the queen. We got all these really, really cool things. And most importantly, we got 25 food and 5 machineries. That's the thing we were missing to advance. And you can continue to play your town or you can go to the world map. I don't really see a point in continuing to play the town. I achieved my goal, so it's world map time for me. I get to do because because my city, at that point, it's getting to the point where it's like becoming, it's hard to manage and I don't care anymore, which is when I'm happy for the game to be over and I get my little packet of rewards. I get to go back to my capital city and buy some upgrades and do all sorts of really, really cool stuff like that. Like, I don't have any artifacts. I do have a little bit of machinery, so I could choose between getting the Obsidian Archive, which would give me +1 embark point, which would allow me to bring more stuff at the start of an expedition, which would make all future expeditions a little bit easier. Or I could pick up the Pioneer's Gate here, which would give me access to a new blueprint, the Provisioner, which would allow me to build provisions, building materials, coats, and flour. And this will also give me an embark point. I think I'm definitely going to just pick up the Brass Forge. It gives me access to a new Cornerstone, a new building blueprint, the smelter. So I'll definitely pick up the Brass Forge. Then I'm going to go ahead. I'll pick up the Obsidian Archive. +1 embark point feels quite impactful, actually. And then I have 26 food left to spend. Man, this is where choices get a little bit more difficult, actually. Now, I could pick up Dim Square, which would give me the Prosperous Settlement Cornerstone. Cornerstones are the things you can pick at the start of every year, so it's a new choice for me. Gain a stack of the Wealth Effect. +1 to Global Resolve each time you sell goods worth 30 amber. So if I'm having a really productive settlement, I could sell off goods to improve the happiness of my people. Also, it would give me access to the market. It'll let me fulfill Brotherhood for free, as well as Religion and Luxury, depending on what I put in there. So the market's an interesting one if I want to keep my lizards happier. Lizards are the ones who use Brotherhood. Apothecary would let me produce tea, which is an alternative to ale, as well as incense and biscuits. And I could also use the Tea Doctor, which fulfills leisure and luxury. Ooh, it's actually a tough choice. I could also just grab Embark Range and Rich Glades, which is a more generalist improvement rather than a specific one. I'll take the generalist improvement. Having extras, being able to embark further at the beginning of each cycle would mean I'd be able to reach further into the unknown at the start of a new cycle. And Rich Glades, as well as the Cornerstone, means more, as I explore, I actually have more non-renewable resources to tap into. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Obsidian Archive. We also did a whole bunch of deeds, orders from the Queen. Yeah, these are quite simple to complete, the relatively early ones. I do still need to get 10 points of reputation through Resolve, win a game with 200 pats. Like I built so many pats, I'm surprised I haven't completed this. I might just have to start spamming pats to get that one. Have 150 grain in storage and win a game near the Stonewood Infestation. That shouldn't be too hard. But we're already now possibly into the phase of the Leech. We have completed the phase of the Moth, and the phase of the Moth is the beginning of the game. So if I come over here now and I end this current cycle, I could do one more mission if I wanted to next to this stone wood infestation. But if I were to click here, that would basically reset the map and I would keep my capital city, but all of my current settlements would essentially go away and I'd have to start out again. I feel like there's time for one more expedition into this Stonewood place. Plus, I'll get to play in Coral Forest and show you guys that off next time. That's going to be the end of the episode. I love you all very much and I'm excited to play more of this game. Bye bye!